In this part, I would like to show you some more details in terms of what you can do within sketching environment of SolidWorks. Now, what I'm about to show you, this command is called Smart Dimensioning. It is really smart. It is the most important command in SolidWorks. Without this, nothing really means anything. This is as important as the spider in the Spider-Man movie. So, over to SolidWorks. If I can open a new file, I'm going to go back to my trusty old top line. Let's say I would like to draw a brief sketch very quickly. Okay, in this particular case, the sketch is going to be a rectangle, your standard corner to corner rectangle. Now, you have in the previous parts looked at the fact that there are some geometric constraints here which show you the way this rectangle will function and behave. For example, it is allowed to scale up and down like this. It's allowed to grow in those particular axes here, but I can't rotate these lines without getting rid of these indicators. Okay, so that's one way of constraining your design. Okay, a good designer is always looking to specify as much detail as necessary to be able to give all the information to the manufacturer about their design. Okay, at this particular point, this rectangle, as pretty as it looks, it's not great because it is not fully defined. It is not. There are lots of things on this on this rectangle which we haven't specified. So, for example, I do not know what is the height of this rectangle. It could be any number, you know. So basically anyone can go in and drag that out, and all of a sudden my design doesn't mean anything. Imagine this was like a meaningful plate that has to go somewhere in a critical part, right? I haven't specified the width of this rectangle, so once again that's an unknown which as a designer I have done a really rubbish job of not specifying how big this piece of metal is. Also, if you look near the clock, it says this is underdefined. Okay, now bear with me. Within the sketching environment, we have tons of things we can do to try and define this further, but this has to be a controlled process. You cannot force this. There is a very step-by-step approach that you got to follow to be able to constrain the design so it kind of makes sense to you and the person who is reading your drawing too. Okay, so for example, I can use commands like Smart Dimension. This is my favorite thing. You're gonna use this for everything you draw anyway. What I tend to do is just go into Smart Dimension by default. I don't want to go into any of those. We don't really need to in the initial days. I'm going to go into Smart Dimension. Okay, and it's actually quite smart as it says on the tin, because it will try and intuit what you're trying to do. You know, it will try and help out in that particular way. So obviously, if you notice, my arrow has changed, my cursor changed to a Smart Dimensioning logo, and all I can do then, if I wanted to say how tall I wanted my rectangle to be, I can click on the line, drag across, and this gives me a nice number. Now I'm a big fan of this, not this. If I see something like this, I just can't sleep overnight. The number's got to be here like this, nice and centered. Okay, not here. That just, I have problems. Okay, so this is what I tend to do. Okay, I tend to click, drag, drop, and if SolidWorks is giving me by default a really good dimension, I go ahead with that. Okay, so in this particular case, it's giving me 8424, which I don't really like. I wanted that to be a 90 millimeter height. Okay, once again, all of this is meaningless if your units are set up correctly. Okay, so I tend to look at my unit system, which is MMGS in this particular case, and I'm going to go and say, can I have that as 90? So using the keyboard, I can plug in the numbers I need, which in this particular case is 90. Green tick to confirm or enter on the keyboard. Now then, I can see my rectangle has a number attached to it. Okay, that's the height of it. Okay, I wonder if I can, right. So I can't make it taller. I can change that dimension. Okay, however, since I've specified how tall I want the rectangle to be, I can't change that anymore. Okay, well, I can really. All I got to do is double click on that 90 and say, right, I've changed my mind now because I'm a designer, and I want that to be 100 now. So all I gotta do is double click on that. It takes you back into the edit mode and you change that number to whatever number you would like it to be. Okay. Now that's not the whole job. It still says under define right here. Okay. I'm gonna go and probably dimension it a bit more. So on this particular occasion, I'm gonna go and specify what is the length of this rectangle. And I'm gonna do this, not that, or not that. Okay. I mean, if you do that, you got problems. There you go. Right, this looks nice and symmetric. I got OCD, and I manage that through Solidworks. Okay, so I wanted this dimension to be 250, nice and centered. This is what the British Standards of Drawing recommend us, to have a neat, readable drawing. Okay, so once again, I have a rectangle here, which is, I know a lot more about now. Okay, it is 100 tall and 250 long, all sensible. Okay, and I can, right, so there is still a bit of a freedom left into the rectangle. Really, I can move it about, I can move it about on my in my graphics area, and I know the X and Y coordinates of this particular point are changing really, and maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's not such a bad thing. However, a good designer would always have an anchor point in the graphics area, and you make references to that anchor point with the sketch. Okay, and this is how you say your elements are a certain distance away, above and below that particular anchor point. Now this origin here, which is staring at us thinking, I'm here to help, can you please use me? I'm going to go and do exactly that. Now there are a couple of things you can do. I want you guys to do keep an eye on the underdefined here, right? So we haven't fully defined yet. The way this is not fully defined is the fact that it is allowed to move. So it's looking for a home position, okay? We have done everything else, which is specified the height and width of it. Now I can do two things. Number one, I can literally drag that corner and I can plant that onto the origin. See what happens when I do that, okay? It snaps onto the origin as I go near it. Look at that. The yellow indicator pops up, and that means if I were to let go now, I'm pressing and holding on my cursor, I'm committing for that point to be coincident onto the origin, and the sketch changes color. It now turns black. Yeah, which really it means it's trying to give me a visual indicator saying I'm fully defined now. I have, as a designer, I have specified all the information needed about that particular rectangle in SolidWorks. Okay, I've specified everything I need to know. So for example, the home position, it's coincident onto the origin, so it goes rightways and up above the origin in that direction, so it goes 100 up and 250 sideways, and that's my little drawing, and I'm quite happy with that. What I want to do is probably look at another example. So for instance, let's say, let's dump that. Let's get out here. Probably let's go back onto the top plane once again. Okay, this time I would like to do something slightly different. How about a circle? Okay. Once again, circle. Let's see if you can use the feature called Smart Dimensioning to specify how big the circle is, where that sits, etc. So you got to build on the knowledge you picked already in the previous part. Okay. Once again, you got to keep an eye on the fact that this is underdefined sketch. This doesn't mean much apart from the fact that you got a circle sitting in the graphics area. Okay. Right. I'm going to go Smart Dimension. Now I can go click on the edge of the circle, drag, drop, and that gives me a diameter figure, which is fine. I like that. I'm going to go say, can I have that 100, please? And that gives me a circle of diameter 100. Okay. I can green tick to confirm. Once again, it says underdefined because you kind of guessed it. We haven't specified where this circle sits with reference to the origin. So I'm going to go and say, I can specify, I can plot that onto the origin, so I can physically move that, and I can say you go and sit there until you're fully defined, or I can say actually this time I'm going to try and do something different. How about I specify how far out that center of the circle is from the origin. Okay, so for that purpose I'm going to go into Smart Dimensioning. Now this is just the beautiful thing about SolidWorks. Okay, all you got to do is click on those two elements, and SolidWorks will try and plot the distance between those two, and it will put that onto the sketching area for you. Okay, so I'm going to go say I want SolidWorks to specify the distance between that center point there and this origin here. Oh, did I want Right, so just through the act of moving my cursor, the mouse, okay, it's giving me three choices. I can specify the distance between those two, or I can specify the horizontal distance or the vertical distance, okay? I quite like things that are quite nice and straight like this. So I'm gonna go, ooh, that's 67.7. It's gonna annoy me a little bit. We'll fix that in a second. I want to set the height of that center above the origin. Okay, so I'm gonna go and say, how about I have that at 70 mil above the origin. Okay, so that's one thing done. Let's see if the circle is still moving. Okay, it's not. Okay, right, fine. Okay, I know what's going on here. It's going left and right, but it's not allowed to go up and down. So I can't move it. What that really means is my constraint here, that decision I made to make that 70 high above the origin and 100 thick, that's enforced now. Okay, right. It is still underdefined. So I'm going to go and hit that with another dimension. In this particular case, it's going to be the lateral distance between that and the origin. So I'm going to go click them. It's not press and hold or anything. I'm just literally going to go click the first entity, which is that dot, the center point, and the origin here. And just to make it nice and tidy, I don't want to go through that 100 that like it is going here. So I'm going to go probably sit up there, you know, and I'm going to say, can I have that as just an arbitrary number, 150? I think that looks pretty good to me. Okay, just gonna make sure the 70 is not gonna bug me. I don't like it when lines cross like that, because that doesn't give me a lot of clarity. Ideally would like this, but then I'm in a bit of a situation here. So tell you what, for the sake of this demonstration, I'm going to leave it like that. And that looks good to me, right? It's fully defined around here, and I can I can't change it any further, really. It's not an, it's, you know. So this is what you can do within sketching. You can draw the entities, and you can hit them with some numbers. You can dimension them to be able to give them some meaning. Okay, what we did previous to this was okay. It was a bit of fun. But now this is getting serious. This is getting quite technical. Let's see what else we can do. Okay, so for example, a slot shape. Okay, this is such a nice, cool feature. Once again, slot shape. You can click again, and it gives you that particular shape there. And you'll be surprised to know that you don't really need to do much to be able to fully define this shape here. So you got to specify how big the circle is. So I'm going to go smart dimension that. And I wonder, I don't know if you noticed this, now it's giving me a radius dimension, which is fine. I wanted a radius one because I want to control that distance here. So I'm going to go say that I would like that to be 100, and I would like that to be 250. Okay, green tick to confirm. And once again, I got to say, where is that center point sitting with reference to the origin? That's just really, really handy. So I can literally drag and drop that there. It's then again decided to fully define itself because I've specified how thick that is and how long that is through the act of specifying those two numbers. Okay. Also, the home position is locked onto the origin. Pretty good. Looking at this simple line command, lines can be actually quite tricky to define. Okay. Right, so I'm going to go, right, here's a nice little line, horizontal. Everyone's got to hold the line, diamond hands. It's this horizontal line here, which I don't really know much about, apart from the fact that it just sits there from there to there. I'm going to go and hit that with a number. I'm going to say, right, I would like this to be 300. Okay, fine, funky stuff. And I would like it to sit or start from the origin. So I'm literally going to pick it up, drop it there on the origin, and then once again it is fully defined like so. Okay, there we go, look at that. What if we have like a composite sketch? What if we don't have a circle, slot, line, so a rectangle? What if we have maybe a blend of these? Let's have a look at that shape here. So for example, I start with a rectangle. I'm going to do this very often now. I would intuitively now, I'm going to start my sketch onto the origin because I know I end up doing that anyway, right? So I'm going to go and say, how about I click onto the origin as my starting point, okay? Because I know if I don't do it now, I'll do it in a minute, okay? Right, there's that. And if I say I didn't want anything like this, and I probably want to let go of that triangle, and the shape I'm after, the net shape, is this. Okay, so let's just say I'm designing a piece of metal that sits like this. All I got to do now is try and dimension this to the fullest. Okay, let's try and look at it. Right, I'm going to start hitting it with numbers gently. So I want that to be 600. Makes sense. That line's gone black, but I don't think that means anything. I'm going to go and say this. I would like that to be 300 because it's quite close to 300. And you got to take it steady, okay? We can't over-define it, but if you do, I'll show that in a minute. What happens if you over-define something, okay? So what if I wanted that to be, it's screaming out to be 400, isn't it? So I'm going to give it, that's 400 right there. And what's this blue line here? The minute I define this dimension here, by the rules of geometry, I don't really need to specify what that length is, okay? Because mathematics, you know, you got things adding up together, and there is only one solution for this particular line, and I don't need to specify what that line is. So I'm just going to go and say, right, I have specified all the numbers here, you know. Imagine if this was a piece of metal and you want someone to actually manufacture this for you. You're going to say, you know, start with a rectangular piece which is 300 by 600 and measure 100 from this corner here. That gives you a point. Measure 400 from this point. That gives you another point, and run it on a bandsaw or something and just cut those 2 points out, and that gets rid of that corner there, and that gives you this net shape you're after, really. And hence it is fully defined this particular way. Let's see what happens if I overstep. Okay, if I say, right, tell you what, I want to probably make that line horizontal. Okay, now I can literally click that line and I can say, if I make it horizontal like so, oh no, it doesn't like it, does it? Solidworks is it's not happy. Clearly I got some errors here. It says, are you being silly, Tushar? What are you doing here? You know, you can't expect me to follow all those numbers and make the line horizontal. Be reasonable. Okay, so I'm gonna go, sorry, yeah, I made a mistake. Right click, delete that. Happy days. Everything is fixed now. So this is how you would generally use a combination of your geometric constraints, which are these green indicators, and your dimensional constraints, which are these numbers here, using the smart dimension feature to be able to fully define a sketch. Okay, so from now on, you are not going to create a sketch which you underdefine, for all the good reasons. Okay, you're going to use all the skills you picked up so far to be able to say, right, this sketch is now fully defined. I know all the information about the sketch, and I inputted all the information into my sketch drawing there. And if I were to pass it on to anyone to manufacture, anyone else to edit it, they have full control over this. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this session. I hope you're going to get some practice out of it, and I'll see you on the other side, and I'll see you on the next session. Take care.